As we here in Portland, Oregon, are watching the clock for the 5 p.m. deadline from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals as to whether or not there is going to be a review of the 3-judge panel's decision to deploy the National Guard into our city and across our state, I wanted to take some time and share with you a really interesting piece that came out about our brothers and sisters in Chicago, Illinois. It has been so fascinating and encouraging to watch the kind of mutual affection develop between Portland and Chicago over the last several weeks as both of our cities have been targeted in similar ways by the Trump regime. I can't get on social media without having people from Chicago be like, we're with you, Portland. We love you, Portland. And I know that folks in Chicago are getting similar kinds of support and encouragement from people here. And it's not just the warm fuzzies, we support you. There's also been a sharing of strategies and tactics. I've seen a number of folks in Chicago take up the kind of tactical frivolity that we're seeing in Portland, inflatable outfits, dancing, music, even the frog suits. Folks in Chicago are trying out the things that we're doing here. And activists in Chicago are sharing their strategies and resources with us here in Portland. They've been sharing particularly about whistle brigades. I made a video day before yesterday about this topic because now there is Migra Whistle here in Portland where you can download the zines that are being used in Chicago and the plans for how to 3D print whistles and how to put together these kits and how to form whistle brigades to protect your neighborhood from ICE. Those are all shared tactics from our sister city in Chicago. The regime wants us to feel isolated and alone. They want us to feel friendless. They are trying to pick off cities one by one, and it is backfiring in so many ways. All I see on social media, all I see when I have conversations with other people is that the behavior of the regime is having the opposite effect that they are trying to create. Instead of shrinking, instead of pulling into ourselves and cowering at home, instead of believing the lies that we are isolated and they can't stop us, what we're doing is we're building connections, both right where we live in our neighborhoods. Y'all, I have been to so many meetings in the last week that are all about grassroots organizing right here in Portland, in our specific city council districts, in our neighborhoods, meeting and working together around specific shared issues like food insecurity, or putting together a boycott for Spotify, or putting together a whistle brigade. So geographic and tactical and cause-related groups are forming rapidly. There are so many people getting organized in little clusters all over Oregon. I cannot keep track of how many different groups are forming. And at a meeting I went to on Sunday, so many of the people there, this was the first time that they're getting their toe in the water of activism. They are reaching out and forming these connections for the first time. So the regime is trying to chill dissent. And on a local level here in Portland, we are watching people say, no, I'm going to do the opposite of what you expect of me. You want me to cower in my home. I'm actually going to go take a risk for the first time. I'm actually going to go get involved for the first time. And that connection isn't happening only on a local level. It's happening between cities that are being targeted by the regime. We are building solidarity here in Portland, with Seattle, with folks in LA, with folks in Chicago, with folks in DC. Activists are communicating with each other, sharing tactics, lending each other support. Okay, I realize this is my long lead in. I know a lot of Portlanders are really scared about whether or not the National Guard is going to get deployed here. And folks in Chicago are also concerned. And when we're talking about local solidarity, when we're talking about remembering that we are in this fight together, we are not alone. Our neighbors are not our enemies. I think it's really crucial to remember that the National Guard, y'all, those are our neighbors. The Oregon Guard, those are our neighbors. Same for Chicago. If y'all are worried about the Illinois Guard getting used in your city, and I do mean used by the Trump regime as political pawns, I just want to encourage you with this article from CBS. It's entitled, "2 Illinois National Guard Members Speak Out. I Won't Turn Against My Neighbors." 2 Illinois National Guard members told CBS News they would refuse to obey orders to deploy in Chicago as part of Trump's controversial immigration enforcement mission, a rare act of open defiance from within the military ranks. "It's disheartening to be forced to go against your community members and your neighbors," said Staff Sergeant Demi Palachek, a Latino guardswoman and state legislative candidate from Illinois' 13th District. "It feels illegal. This is not what we signed up to do." Both Palachuk and Captain Dylan Blaha, who is running for Congress in the same district, described growing unease amongst Guard members after the White House federalized 500 troops, including members of the Illinois and Texas National Guard, to secure federal immigration facilities in the Chicago area. I signed up to defend the American people and protect the Constitution, Blaha said. When we have somebody in power who's actively dismantling our rights, free speech, due process, freedom of the press, it's really hard to be a soldier right now. Refusing a lawful federal order while serving in the National Guard can sometimes result in a court-martial, imprisonment, or felony-level discharge, depending on who issued the order, whether the soldier is under state or federal control, and the nature of the disobedience. The Department of Defense declined to comment for this article, by the way. Palachuk says members of the military are being used as pawns. That's what I just said. Asked if she would refuse a direct order to deploy to Chicago, Palachuk didn't hesitate. Absolutely, I would definitely say no. I'm not going to go against my community members, my family, and my culture. I believe this is the time to be on the right side of history. Look at 1930s, 1940s Germany, Blaha said. There is a point where if you didn't stand up against the Gestapo, are you just actively one of them now? A federal judge on Wednesday delayed the deployment of National Guard in Chicago indefinitely until the Supreme Court rules on the matter. Here in Portland, we are waiting for the Ninth Circuit to decide if they are going to take up an en banc review of the three-judge panel. The ruling on that three-judge panel, which was decided by two Trumper judges, has been condemned by legal experts, including other judges in the Ninth Circuit who have asked for an en banc review because they feel that it was such an egregious, terrible ruling. I think my exact words around that ruling were that it was shit garbage. Blaha went on to say that National Guard members are not trained to assist ICE, and helping them just be violent in our communities is shameful. He also added that most Guard members don't want to be there, that they're scared too. It's also important to remember here that there are hundreds of members of the Illinois Guard and of the Oregon Guard that are green card holders. They have to choose between standing up for their community, standing up for immigrants, or potentially losing everything. They could lose their legal status and their path to citizenship if they disobey orders. Right, y'all know that our armed forces have recruited green card holders, promising them an expedited path to citizenship. There's also the program Parole in Place and others that are supposed to help family members of our service members be protected from deportation and adjust their status from undocumented to documented, and also help them get permanent resident cards and apply for citizenship. That's been a big motivator for families of immigrants to join the military, but we are watching the Trump regime no longer honor their agreements. We've seen the wives of veterans and service members be snatched by ICE. We've seen service members apply for the Parole in Place program for their family members and be denied for no reason. Sergeant Palachuk was one of those. I applied for Parole in Place and my application has not been able to go through, she said. Everyone says, why don't they do it the right way? But they are doing it the right way. And the Trump regime is not letting them. Please know that our service members are facing real retaliation, both from the Department of Defense itself and from MAGA outside of it, because they are standing up on the right side of history and standing for the Constitution. Palachuk said she's received death threats. Blaha had his security clearance yanked by the DOD. But they both agreed that silence is not an option. We were trained to stand up for what we believe in and to stand up for the American people, Blaha said. Palachuk, who once served in active duty, said the current mission has made her ashamed of her uniform. I've been truly proud of what I've been able to do in the military, and right now I hate saying I'm in the military. It's embarrassing. Both see a dangerous precedent in deploying federal troops to U.S. cities. It's a slow normalization of using the military in American cities. If he declares martial law enough times, people will start to think it's okay. We're never going to believe it's okay. This is not normal. This is not normal. We've got to remind all of us of that. Also, please remember that a majority of Americans strongly oppose Trump deploying National Guard members in U.S. cities. But there's still about 40% of Americans who think it's okay because they've been propagandized by Fox News and they've been fed disinformation from the regime. We have an obligation to reach them and communicate the truth to them now. They're coming after the communities that have built this country, Palachuk said. To be used against my culture, my community, and my neighbors, that's vile and disgusting to me. Blaha said, today it's Chicago, tomorrow it could be somewhere else. We need to combat the misinformation and stand up to Donald Trump. Crime is down. This is not about safety. It's about control. We know that courage is catching, and the more we see service members refuse to comply, the more we will see service members refuse to comply.